All right, looks like we're all set, so we will jump right into it. Welcome back, everyone, for our final session of our strategic workforce planning. Sorry, let me find the PowerPoint here. There we go. All right, welcome to session number 5. For anyone that hasn't attended the last few or has forgotten us, we are with the Star Center at ACU, and on here today we have Suzanne Spear, who is our Senior Director of Workforce Development, and Mariah Blake, our Program Manager, and I'm Alex Rolling, I'm a Training Specialist here. And we also have Kelly Rondu from Whipfly, and she will be leading this session for you today. And just as a reminder, ACU, the Association of Clinicians for the Underserved, provides all sorts of resources for recruitment and retention of clinical care and other providers for health centers all over the US. And Star Center, our National Training and Technical Assistance Partnership, produces free resources and training specifically focused on workforce and that recruitment and retention component. And so again, I'm sure everyone totally familiar with Zoom at this point in our lives, but if you have any issues, please feel free to message Mariah Blake on the chat, or you can send an email to her at mblake@clinicians.org. If you're having any technical difficulties, she can help you out there. And now I will jump into our icebreaker Mentimeter here. So just a reminder, you can pull up your smartphone and scan the QR code, or you can go to menti.com. Let me type that into the chat for everyone, menti.com, and you're going to enter the code that's on the screen there. All right, so you can go to menti.com and enter that code, and I will switch our share. Okay, Kelly, can we see the Menti on the screen? Oh,
no, we cannot. Sorry, Alex.
Okay, let me try this. New share. How about now? Yep. Okay. Perfect.
Oh.
All right. So, stranded on a desert island. What CD are you going to bring with you?
Strong choices.
Because apparently we're stranded, jumped off the boat in like 1998. But you can bring a CD that's more recent than 1998 if you want. Do I have a CD player? So I like it. Yeah, sure. I guess you like
here
use
for
the CD
journey once. And Boston, Eagles. I mean, all these are classic. I love it. Oh, sorry, man. I just had to jump
in. What about no one just wants one of those one of the old like inspirational speaker CDs that like you always hear people listening to in movies, like I am a good and powerful human being and all that stuff. You just play that over and over on the island. You annoy all the other people who are stranded with you and they leave you alone.
I guess that is a question. Are there other people on the island and are you trying to make friends, Alex? Like we need to get some more clarity on the situation before we can appropriately plan our CD. I love these. I'm gonna have to go listen to these bands after this session.
No one put like Backstreet Boys or something silly. I saw one person smile at that. Good. All right. I will stop torturing people with this question now, and we'll turn it over to Kelly.
Cool. Thanks, Alex. While I'm pulling up and sharing my screen, just gonna note that, excuse me, let's do this, that my yard folks are here, so I apologize. I've got all the windows closed. There's only so much soundproofing I can do. So there's that in the background, and then the dog who very much supports HBET is in his crate with the Kong. So it should be as quiet as possible, but so you should see my screen now, Alex.
Yep, I can see it.
Awesome. So plan for today is to just kind of wrap things up, hopefully have kind of an easy cruise, an easy enter into landing session. I'm not going to try to throw too much information at folks today, but of course, if there are questions or any information that you're wanting to kind of dig into, please feel free to jump in. Just as a heads up, we're going to spend the majority of time, unless questions come up, in small groups, sort of discussing what you're planning and how you're thinking through your plans. So if you want to grab those as I'm chatting to be ready, that'd be great. I owe a couple of you from the one-on-one some resources, so I'll get those out to you hopefully soon. It may not be this week. Things are a little bit crammed because I'll be in Nashville next week for the ACU Workforce Summit. So if anybody's planning on heading to Nashville next week, hopefully we'll see you there. Let me know. We can definitely connect. My pal Kiki Nocella will be there with me, so happy to set up meetings. And then just one last piece, this is just, if I haven't mentioned it before, but full disclosure, really the first time that at least I've done this kind of a session on this particular topic, with the funding from HRSA coming out most so recently for the PCAs to put together strategic workforce plans and HPET plans, really is an outgrowth of the Grow Your Own conversations that have been happening strategically over the years. So any feedback, constructive or otherwise, is definitely welcome. Please, what's worked for you, what hasn't, and I know it's been a lot of information. So while please be kind, don't worry about feelings. I think anything that will make this more productive in the future as we move forward through these conversations is very much appreciated. So, all right, so let's just jump in. I just want to review quickly sort of all the different things that we've covered, which as I was going through, I was like, wow, that is something. So we first started out talking about why we're doing the strategic workforce planning and health professions education and training in particular. And it's no surprise to anybody that we've got a good deal of provider shortages now, struggles recruiting folks, retaining folks, and those shortages are projected to continue into the future. And in some really particular roles, right? Behavioral health comes up a lot, or MAs come up a lot, or CHWs. But it's you're not alone in having that struggle. And the thought process behind why HPET, Grow Your Own, I'm going to kind of use those interchangeably today since they are so closely related. Why that has been identified as such a key strategy, and I think you're all here because you already share that understanding or belief, if you will. We went through kind of like a whirlwind, it feels like ages ago, a bunch of different HPET models and approaches. And I would really encourage you, if you will, to go back through those original slides. There was so much information on there. But what are the different ways that you can interact with and approach your potential learners, your future staff, and engage them in the conversations of what it is to work at a health center and provide services to the populations that we serve. It can start in high school, in middle school, in elementary school, and all the way up through, graduate programs and fellowships, and really finding that right size approach for your health center, I think, is the big trick, right? And to that end, we talked a little bit about, just using residency programs as a model. On the left-hand side, we have the greatest level of engagement. Ownership is that sponsoring institution model. You're making all the strategic decisions, all the financial and faculty responsibilities are coming through your organization, to being a rotation site, perhaps for folks coming through for a couple of weeks for an experience. And understanding that the more time we have folks engaged at our health centers, the more they're going to take away those key mission, vision, values pieces, as well as that understanding of our patients. There's no wrong answer. Let me just go back and say that. There's no wrong answer, right, in how we're engaging folks. The more exposure learners have to our health centers, the more likely we're going to have people coming. And I don't know if I shared this before, but before I started working at Northwest Regional Primary Care Association 7+ years ago, it was really, I felt like community health centers were one of the best kept secrets in the nation, right? So how do we make sure that those learners know that this is a place where they can come and have that career? And then as we're deciding to embark upon this journey of creating HPET programs, what are the things that we want to keep in mind as we're developing those? So we talked about gaps, financial feasibility, getting that buy-in. We didn't go into too much of inclusivity and equity, excuse me. But I do think that that's always something to keep on the radar. But most importantly, you know, starting where you are, knowing what your needs are, knowing what your capacities are, and where you want to be are those three key elements, right? And giving yourself credit for what you're already doing. Are there things that the work that you're already doing that you can document and then engage in a quality improvement process on? That's absolutely a strategic workforce plan is related to health professions, education, and training. We dug into some of the operational elements, making sure that you're, you know, have the house in order, as it were, as you're building the HPET plans. And I really want to talk about the fact that this is an iterative process in a lot of ways, and something to really keep in mind is what is unique about you as far as your curriculum goes. What is that experience you want your learners to walk away with? And then in a flurry, I presented to you these templates and said, go forth and write a plan. And y'all were like, wow, that's a lot. So just a reminder that you do have these pieces available to you. Probably will continue to be evolving over the years, but making it your own, using these as a resource. There's no, nobody's going to grade the strategic workforce plans as far as like using this particular Excel document that was presented or Word document that was presented to you all. So just keeping that in mind. It's really about getting something written down on paper that you guys can revisit strategically in conversations with your teams. Like I mentioned, that was a lot of information. It's kind of crazy that we've gone through 4 sessions, going from what is HPET to, okay, have your plan, let's go. But the pieces that I really want you to keep in mind as you move forward, you know, you're not going to conquer the world in a day, right? So taking that deep breath, taking a moment to reflect, and moving through the process in a mindful way, which isn't always easy. And there are certainly some times when it is critical that you move quickly and take advantage of opportunities. But as you're starting to have these strategic conversations and understanding, for example, of the data that you have access to, what your needs are, what your resources are, being able to respond to those opportunities as they come up will become easier, right? Making sure that, you know, you're in it for the long haul at this point. It's especially when we're talking about programs where folks will be engaging for a learning experience for a number of years. This is a marathon. You're going to be there for the long haul. And I think too, there's a lot of trepidation, I guess would be the word that I would use, as far as like making sure that you're finding the right piece, you're doing the right work, you have the correct answer. And there is value in wanting to get 100% on every quiz, but sometimes it's okay to course correct throughout and understand what's working, what's not working. Doing that quality improvement process is an acknowledgement of the fact that nobody's perfect 100% of the time. And so we will need to continue to take a look at these things as we move forward. And you're not alone. So all that said, I want to move into discussions at this point. In small groups, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 folks. So maybe we'll do 2 groups, Mariah. And if you want to see if we can get, yeah. So we'll spend about 20 minutes. We've got some big questions. We might have just lost someone, so still 2 groups. And I just would love for you guys to spend some time with each other talking about what HPET programs you are developing or that you're having in mind for the strategic workforce process. Talking about what it was that you saw in your data or in your community or in your experience that led you to pick this program, and what's the unique thing about your health center that you think this will provide. So let's start with, since we've got, let's do 15 minutes actually, Mariah, instead of 20. So we'll take some time. Don't feel like it's a rushed conversation. Crystal, I saw you come off mute for a second. Was that just saying hi or logging on? Did you have a question? If it was a question, feel free to let us know. But pause there. So we'll go into small group discussions, 2 groups, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 2 groups. Any questions on this discussion? Okay. Hearing none, and assuming you're not all asleep, even if you are, feel free to continue your nap, but we'll see you all in about 15 minutes for a report out. All right, now that I'm unmuted, welcome back. Hopefully you all had some time to connect with folks and hear new things. So I'm curious, just for our report out, what did you all hear? Did you spark any new thoughts or ideas or approaches? Or Dean and Mel, did you get lumped into the same breakout group again? Like, I thought about saying, like, please don't put them in the same group, but then I was like, well, let's see what happens, but of course not. So,
Oh,
yeah.
I love it because I'm learning more from Dean as well, because he has all the past history and then I'm just learning the new and trying to bring in some new solutions. So it's a really good match for us, I think.
I'm glad.
We had a very healthy conversation, interesting enough. The focus was more on the development of support staff positions, medical assistants, dental assistants, and we talked a little bit about dental hygiene, and how we're all having to be creative about how do we develop that capacity. Lindsay mentioned where she is very rural and very spread apart. So it's again, they have a very unique situation because they really have the concentration isn't there to maybe host a big training program because they're spread out of, hundreds of miles and even in a different state. So their strategy would be different than others. We talked about relationship with community colleges and maybe some strategies around that. So it was, there were some good ideas punted around.
Great, thanks, Dean.
Colleagues, anybody else had anything they heard they wanted to share? Guess not.
That was a good summary.
Cool.
Thanks.
Julia or Mel, you want to add anything? So I think the four of you were in the same group, right?
I was not
Oh,
in
okay.
that group, but similarly, our group, Hazel, Crystal, and I talked about support staff as well, medical assistants, dental assistants. I'm working on implementing a behavioral health community health worker internship. So yeah, that was our focus there. I think we talked about how great it would be to have a contact list of our collaboratives participants with the organization they're at, and maybe some notes on what programs they have established and what they're working on, because I would love to continue picking folks' brains who have expertise in the areas that we're still trying to develop.
Awesome. That's a great idea. That's a great idea, Julie. Thank you.
Yeah.
Crystal M, I see you're off mute. Do you want to add anything to that?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that Dean summed it up very, very well. We had a really, really good conversation about it. And I think, for me, being so rural and so spread out, it is harder to, like I was telling them, harder to build your own. But I think I was telling them that we've approached our college. We have a satellite college campus here in our area. And they seem finally to be amiable to putting together an MA program. And Mel had a really good idea about, doing it through the high school. And so I think once we get this established with our college, that I would like to try to take that route as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Love that. Other folks wanting to share what they heard or new thoughts that were generated by having the conversation?
Well, I think that I meant to bring this up. I think most of us has workforce investment boards in our areas, and I'm always intrigued, that sometimes we forget that they exist, and that's part of their job, is to get skills to people who otherwise would need them, and we need the workforce. So they have funding, and these days they have quite a bit of funding. And you may want to research out where and who your workforce investment board where they reside and engage with those folks to see if there's something they can help you with.
I wonder, just the workforce investment boards, I've seen a couple of different configurations, Dean, and you're in California. I'm wondering if that's the same, like here in Washington, we have what's I believe now called WorkSource, which is kind of like the evolved model of the unemployment office where they provide like training and skills. Is that the same idea of the WorkSource?
I believe it's federal. So everybody, probably every state calls it different and has it differently configured. But I think the purpose still is around the same thing, and that is about training and retraining for people. And Mel, you probably know more about it than I do. So
yeah, we have Smart Workforce. I think they are set up that way that you're saying, and we ran our on-site job fair through them as well. So that was all free of charge for us, where they were trying to assist us to try and reach out and get these support stuff as well. So yeah, there are resources that those sorts of organizations are very helpful. And as Dean said, they're there to help us with that and funded to do so. So on skills shortages.
Yeah, I think there's I wondered too, like community investment groups and things like that who are looking at, or community development groups who are looking like the future of the community as well to look into. It's an interesting and probably, I mean, it's a related, but such a big conversation of what are those other players that are looking at the community as a whole and really wanting the community to thrive, and how does that align with workforce development and training for you all? Yeah.
Kelly, we actually have a community group here that are working on the dental shortage as well. And so our staff, you know, our dental director is working with them as well, looking at options. Can we work with them to expedite our program, or do we do it independently? And so we're looking at doing our own internal for assistance, and then also 15 months on the job training with us, where they can get their 4 certificates required and sit the license test, the exam straight away, rather than waiting for our local college who we've been meeting with, and they can't take students till September next year. So again, we're trying to expedite this need and try and get people trained now rather than wait if possible. And so we're looking at both partnering with external as well as how can we expedite it ourselves and have on the job training. Another thing we did look at is our existing staff. We can forget them, and we identified some gaps in processes where some of our existing staff don't have their sealant certificates. So we're having to change them to different patients. They might see 3 or 4 different people because one doesn't have the sealant certificate. So we're trying to get them trained now, which will help improve our quality and expedite our processes on a daily basis so we can get more patients in. So sometimes it's good to look at what we have right now as well as what we're trying to develop. And so that's been interesting feedback when I've met with our director of training and as well as the dental director. So just sharing that. We can sometimes lose sight of what we already have, and we don't want to lose them as well, and how we could use them to the full capacity that their license gives us to.
Yeah, another Venn diagram for sure on that, Mel, like the career ladder, or like helping folks work to the top of their licensure. All of that sort of comes together. I was having a conversation with a group that I'm on the board for. They're recruiting for an executive director and really want to do an internal process, and thinking about how, well, if we recruit internally, we'll have gaps, but we'll also have applicants who don't get the job. And so how do we have those conversations about, like, they've suddenly seen their career perhaps in a different way. So how do we as an organization support them to, like, in that professional development career ladder model for themselves, that, you know, in this situation, it might be they have to find their career ladders or their next career step outside the organization, but we're still invested in the development of that person for sure. So
you know, on that note, I just have to say, like, so I was telling in the breakout session that I went to a conference for our Arizona Alliance of Community Health Centers last week, and I presented at the conference, and I started out in my company 6 years ago. I worked at the front desk at one of our clinics. And then I went into referrals. I went into care management. Those were kind of, I was voluntold for those more than anything, but it was a good, you know, experience. And then I went into billing, I went into quality, and now I'm here as our primary recruiter. And, you know, so that was one thing that I really kind of hit home on for a lot of, you know, my speech that I gave. You know, it definitely does behoove, if you've got somebody that is willing and determined. You know, I'm now on my way to getting my SHRM certification, and, you know, so not necessarily the medical, you know, clinical side of it, but the admin side of it, it's definitely worth it to look internally. And maybe I'm not the most versed recruiter that we could have possibly picked, but I have that drive to do it. And so it definitely does make a huge difference to have somebody that's motivated and to be able to see that they have that potential.
Absolutely. That resonates with me a lot, Crystal. I was an executive assistant and they wanted to make sure that I could read and wouldn't steal from clients. Those were like the base level expectations. This is many years ago. And I ended up leaving as a director and having developed programs and stuff. So, I really credit my leader, my executive director, for sort of helping to see that pathway could be there and supporting me along the way. So snaps to that. Lindsay, do you want to speak to the comment you put in about the federal funding?
Sure. So we have several capital projects going on as an organization right now, but one of the future projects that we're working on is we really need a brand new administrative building, as well as the community that our admin is in. We need to expand our medical clinic and bring in dental and behavioral health to this rural community. And we have a good relationship with our economic development district, and they actually proactively reached out to us because they had heard about the workforce development programs that we're working on and a partnership that we have with our local school district. And they said, hey, did you know, because you have these workforce components, they think that they can help pursue some grant funding for us that will be capital funding. And that's something we've really been looking for, is workforce related capital funding. It seems like a lot of the grants out there for workforce are more for like program development. But we actually need physical space that's developed with training in mind. We're not a teaching health center. We're not trying to be a teaching health center. There's one in the nearest city, but we're trying to do all sorts of other types of training, including for non-clinical positions. So it's kind of interesting to hear about these other sources of funding that maybe would not have been on our radar, because we're very familiar with HRSA funding and healthcare related funding, but this is just funding that we can pursue that's broadly related to workforce development, not even healthcare specific.
That's super cool. That's really exciting. It's what a gift to have somebody walk up and be like, by the way, I have capital funding resources for you.
It was a great meeting. And you are correct, Kelly, in Washington State, it is WorkSource is the name of our local, I guess, workforce investment boards. So.
Okay. That's what I thought. Well, that's a totally different tangent, but thank you, Lindsay. I was wondering, unless there's other comments along this, I have a question for you, Lindsay, if I can put you on the spot. I'm curious, and I heard it from not just yourself, I heard it from a couple different places, but this concept of sort of a university that you're looking at, could you talk a little bit about like where those conversations started? It's just, I thought it was a really interesting way to conceptualize the education and training stuff that you're doing.
Sure. So our health center, our name is New Health. The NEW stands for Northeast Washington. We're in a rural community. So we have developed a strategic workforce program that we call New Health University. And it's not accredited. It's not meant to be accredited. It really is our internal workforce development program. As we have started to share it in our local community, we have employers clamoring, saying, how can I use your university? In our area right now, if a local business puts out a job opening, they're not getting any applicants. Our health center is getting a ton of applicants. And I will clarify the types of applicants we're getting. These are for primarily like entry-level positions. So if I have a front desk position, I can get like 20 applicants. So that's going really, really well for us. It is still challenging if we need a higher level individual. And when I say higher level, I'm not talking clinical. I'm talking if I need somebody with IT experience or maybe an accountant. So we have other workforce programs we're pursuing for that. But New Health University is really our umbrella now for all of our workforce initiatives. The program has mission and vision statements. We have defined goals. We have KPIs for the program. And so it's everything from workforce pipeline to development to internal commitments for training programs, dedicated training time for all of our employees. We provide tuition assistance. We have a commitment to promote from within. So it's a very comprehensive program. It's been years in the making, and this is really the vision of our CEO. And she says this is the result of many years of developing creative solutions to rural workforce challenges. But we just formally launched the branded program last fall in September. And so we are going to be presenting about that, and is going to be there.
Great. Wow.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead, Dean.
No, I was curious, Lindsay, do you attribute the interest in applicants to the concept of a university model? I mean, is that what that marketing angle and some of the pieces that went with it? Sounds like.
So the New Health University branding and marketing, we honestly have not put that out there on job listings. So the people that know about that are really our internal staff and then community partners, as I've been going out and presenting to, whether it's the Economic Development District or just other industries in our community. What I would attribute to the increase in applicants is through this strategic effort. We've done a lot of things from a marketing perspective, reevaluating the wording that we're using in our job postings, really promoting our benefits and just promoting the fact that we have these values and commitment to providing training and promoting from within. So kind of taking some of the core concepts of the program and promoting those to applicants. And so people find that very appealing and they want to come work at an organization that really values learning and training, and we provide that. So we have 3 staff that are part of New Health University. There's a manager and 2 trainers, and they have developed a really great onboarding training program. It's very structured, and then they go out every single month to all of our different sites and do a very structured skills assessment. And so it's part of our culture to say, like, we don't want anyone to feel like it's like they're in trouble because they're getting training. We've just made that part of the culture, is that we all need to continually train and do skills improvement. So I think that has all been very appealing. And as we go out to the high schools and do presentations, people are starting to realize that our organization, even though we're a healthcare organization, not all of our positions are healthcare. And I think that has helped us a lot, is getting that message out there that consider us as an employer, even if you don't have a clinical background. So you can come work at our front desk. We'll train you as a medical assistant. We can bring you on into our call center. So those kinds of opportunities, I think, is really opening doors for us.
Good. Thank you.
That's really fabulous. I'm excited to go and see. And so that is the spring conference, which is it's May 17th through 19th, I think, and you guys are on that Sunday, the 17th, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, we're on, I think it's the 15th.
Okay.
Yeah, so Sunday, May 15th is our conference session, and the day before is a Saturday where they have their own, I don't know if it's a workforce workshop, so we'll be part of that as well. But like the deep dive session will be on that Sunday.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully I'll be able to like sneak in and hear you guys speak on that. I still have to figure out some details. But I love the way that you guys are conceptualizing sort of the whole package of it's everybody engaged in that training and building it into that culture. And it goes back to sort of what we were talking about of how do you have that culture of education so that everybody feels like they have a role in it, whether it's as a participant or otherwise. And it'll be exciting, I think, to see how you all move through and I mean, the KPIs, being able to track that and know what those are too. And as those evolve will be really interesting to keep an eye on, I think, as well. So cool. Thank you, Lindsay. Any other, I was going to put us into another small group, but I think at this point, we're coming up on the close of an hour. We do have 15 more minutes, but I mean, who doesn't love 15 more minutes of their day back? But given that this is the last session, is there anything that's sort of weighing on anybody's mind? Any outstanding questions to take advantage of the great knowledge in the room? It's just lunchtime and everybody's blood sugars are low, which is totally fine too. Okay, well then I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Let me get back to the slideshow just really quickly. I want to run through a couple of quick things. So I'm being defeated by technology. Give me 1 second here. Okay. All right, so just really quickly wanted to share, like, so you have access, I believe, ongoing to the ACU, the conversation group, and Suzanne has mentioned that we'll get that contact information too, which is a great idea. And so you'll have access to all of the old slides, but I did take an effort to sort of compile everything for you all in some sort of easier, cleaner manner. So as you go through the slides from today, you'll have like the different support structures, some different pieces on structuring programs or how to find out needs assessment pieces. The CPCA tools, I mean, besides the fact that we, myself and Kiki have really played a large role in developing the resources, I think CPCA does an excellent job of putting things together for the HPET. I really love their smart sheet, so it's interactive and you can go in and really like look through all the different resources they have. And then just for anybody who's looking to have an accredited program, you don't need to have an accredited program, but there's a variety of resources that are general program specific. And if you're looking to have that accredited program, who's doing that work? So the ones that I came up with based on what folks are looking for these roles. So there's that, needs assessment, and that is the end of my slides, but I'll hand it back over to you, Alex, to close us out officially.
All right. Thanks, Kelly. And yeah, if you know, and if anyone has questions following this, obviously we are available at the Star Center. Feel free to reach out to us. On our website, the main contact email is info@chcworkforce.org. And that goes to Michelle, whom some of you may have met during some of our trainings, but you can also reach out to any one of us individually if you have questions or there's some way that we can assist you with this. Oh, that's a good question. Lindsay's asking, how long will we have access to the materials posted in the portals? And yeah, Suzanne said indefinitely. So, you know, our materials stay up there, so you'll be able to access those. And all of the useful resources that Kelly put up there. You know, especially one of these things is, as you're going along, I heard a lot of people talking about plans that are, you know, what they're doing now, what they've been doing before, and some changes that might be coming down the road. And that tracking, you know, those spreadsheets that Kelly provided in the strategic plan sample that she gave, like that kind of stuff can really help to keep assessing what's working and, you know, discard what doesn't seem to be working. But like I said, please reach out to any of us if you have any questions. And if there's anything that someone's thought of, let us know. Otherwise, we'll let you go and hope you enjoyed the Learning Collaborative. We certainly enjoyed having all of you here.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's been great having your support in these conversations and facilitating it. So thank you, and Kelly and everyone else involved. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
oh,
thank
yes.
you.
And Mariah wants me to remind everyone, and I'll repost it, the evaluation. We have to submit those to HRSA and everything. So that really helps us out. It should have popped up on your screen. If you're able to fill that out real quick, that really helps us. But yeah, thank you so much for attending.
Thanks.
And thanks to Kelly.
Thank you all. So good to meet you and spend time. So
Thanks, Kelly.
thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you to Kelly and to Alex for leading this, and Mariah for running all the technical stuff, and for you all for attending. So we hope we see you at a training soon.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Right.
Thanks, everyone.
Best of luck, everybody.
Thank you.
Stay well.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Bye now.
You guys.
take care.